is not your traditional BBB Sharing podcast. Instead, we're going to do a one-on-one spark talk. I have with me today Mr. Joe Crowley from the Coleman Institute. I was lucky enough that he was able to come see me very last minute today and have a discussion with me about how do we get drugs off the street. And for those of you that don't know who I am, I'm Evie, Director of Ignite, Sparked by BBB, and this is one of our famous Spark Talks.
Welcome, Evie. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. So you have a better background about this than I do, but you do work for the Coleman Institute. How do we get drugs off of the streets?
Yeah, that's a real challenge. They have become so prevalent right now. It's overwhelming. I think there's about a multi-pronged things that we have to do. First and foremost, we have to start with the education of our children. Truly educating them on the dangers of that. I think the other thing that we need to do is, make sure that our children, as they're growing up, are staying very busy, playing sports, going to dance, doing plays, doing activities, so that they're not hanging around. Bored children getting in trouble.
Yeah, you're right.
As a parent of 3 adult children now, we lived, watch them grow, and you keep them busy, you have a much better chance of them not falling into things. And then we need to have drug programs. We need to have resources that, people that are suffering from addiction can go to. And law enforcement we need to have cooperation with law enforcement. It has to be a multi-pronged approach. And, today's drugs, the big scary thing is fentanyl. That's, everywhere. And it is so frightening how many of our young people, and not just young people, we're losing to overdose deaths because of fentanyl.
That's when I like that you said to educate them. One of the things that always irked me was my sister and I were the type of children where when parents said, don't do this because it causes these bad consequences, we were like, okay, we're not going to do that. But then our parents had our brother and it was like, don't do this. And he was like, okay, well, I'm going to do it anyways. So for me, it was really understanding that concept of why would you do something after an adult who's wiser than you, has lived longer than you, said, don't do it.
Yeah, that's a big challenge. And, we've worked, my wife and I have volunteered in scouting and youth sports and done that. And, and with our 3 children, and we've had lots of their friends over our house over the years. And it is always interesting. There is always some children that would be like your sister and yourself that when an adult tells them, they go, whoa, and they'll listen. And then there's always some that are similar to your brother. We have 3 children. My oldest son, he would be like your brother, and my other 2 would go, oh, okay, that makes sense. Raised in the same house, just like your brother. And so, again, it's all reinforcement, it's education, it's having things for our children to do, and it's having an open, honest dialogue in our community. There is a scourge, and we've looked at the number of deaths. The trend it's alarming. What
are some, I know this is a term I used to hear growing up, they were called gateway drugs.
Right.
What are the most common you see today?
What we see at the Coleman Institute for Addiction Medicine, and the 2 biggest common ones are alcohol and marijuana. We hear so many times that, marijuana is just a mild drug. It's really not a drug. I don't have all the exact stats, but, once you start down that road, my experience is you have a higher percentage chance to go to the next gateway.
Yep. That's what I know. I hear that very often, actually. People would be like, oh, I smoked a blunt before class when I was in college. And I was like, class is not that stressful that I feel like you need to smoke marijuana before you come in. It's a regular thing. I mean, if you're stressed out, maybe talk to the professor about it, how you're kind of getting anxiety. But what are some community-led initiatives that you've seen success in?
Yeah. So I think it depends on where you are. There's education initiatives that try to prevent you from going into drug use, and then there are initiatives after you get into drug use and you're trying to heal. So the Coleman Institute for Addiction Medicine, what we do is we do what's called a outpatient rapid detox, and we can get the drugs out of your system and detach them from your brain receptors. But then it takes ongoing groups and activities and to get them out. But I think the bigger issue is how do we educate our children? What do we do? How do we go forward? Um, we're fortunate in Richmond. There's a number of peer recovery groups that we have here in Richmond. There's, the McShin Foundation is a wonderful organization. It's been in Richmond 20 plus years, and they're a peer recovery organization. We have the Healing Place, Pada Caritas, a wonderful organization that helps people get back on their feet. There. And there are a number of programs that sheriffs in the city of Richmond, Chesterfield, and Henrico have started to help people. My big thing is how do we stop them getting there in the first place? And I really think it's up to, schools, parents, youth organizations, to educating them.
I agree. I think that there needs to be more of an initiative in the schools because we send our kids away to college at 18 years old. Our brains don't develop. Females, I think it's 24, males even longer than that. So I think there needs to be some, like you said, initiative in teaching them how to be aware of these things. If you want to go to a party in college and experience a party, go ahead. I think that is something that you should learn. However, there's a difference between experiencing a party and experiencing substances. And I didn't start partying till much later in my life when I was older and I could legally drink. And I realized pretty quickly that I do not like to get wasted when I go out. I was lucky enough that I went with people that I trusted and who made sure that all the girls got back home safely. But after that, I was like, no, I think I want to be the person that's in control of myself all the time, no matter what. And so I think that we need to get back to having a good time, but in moderation.
Right.
There's a way to have a good time and actually enjoy yourself and to not have to indulge in those things that could really hurt you.
Yeah, that's a challenge that all of society faces. When you're 18 years old and you go off to college, there is a lot of peer pressure. There are all kinds of parties and events at colleges and universities, and all of your friends or all of these people that peer pressure. And I think it takes a very strong person to resist. And the challenge is, a number of people aren't strong enough, and they end up doing things that they don't want to do, and they can regret it there. I think one of the challenges, I wish I had more answers, but over the last 5 years, we've noticed, and in particular since COVID, there has been a significant increase in anxiety and depression, especially amongst young people. And when you have that anxiety and that depression, that many times they end up self-medicating. And that's a big challenge. I wish I had the answers to say, how do we help our young people? And, some people say, well, Joe, that's very simple. Play sports, exercise, act in plays, do things that you like, engage your brain, engage with other people. It helps. But many people struggle
to stay focused long enough to do. Yeah.
Yeah.
My brother is one of those people. He does have ADHD. He does struggle to focus. He's not medicated for ADHD. And so for him, it is a struggle to stay on top of things throughout the week. And he gets frustrated very easily. And he thinks to himself, why? I want to go to the gym, but then I want to sleep because I work long hours and I don't feel like I'm getting enough sleep in. And then I don't have energy when I'm at work. But I also have to play with our puppy. So I think he gets overwhelmed with so much going on that he can't fit in the important things that he needs to prioritize. Like if he's going to play with the pup, maybe he should go for a run with him or go spend an hour at the gym. Do an activity where other dog moms and dads are actually going out and playing sports with their dogs.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing, but it is a thing. And it looks like a lot of fun. But it's definitely something that you need to discipline yourself on.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm a big bookaholic, and those of you that see me on LinkedIn, my wife and I, Leslie, post a new book every week. We're on year 4. We're approaching close to 200
I added
books.
the last one that you posted to my read list.
Well, good. I'm glad you're enjoying that. But a couple years back, I discovered this book, and it's called The Art of Happiness by Sean Achor, was a psychology professor at Harvard. He's now an author and a speaker. And he talks about how important, when he first got to Harvard, he didn't think he'd get accepted. He applied just for the heck of it, and he got accepted. He was from Texas. He goes, I'm from a little town in Texas, and I get accepted. And when he got out there, he was trying to figure out what to major. And everybody, when they think a lot of times about getting a degree in psychology, they think about, studying various illnesses, people with depression, people with, schizophrenia, people with all of this. And there was a professor at Harvard that was creating a department of positive psychology. And it really resonated with him. And so he ended up majoring in psychology and then became a graduate teaching assistant. Then he became a lecturer at Harvard. And he talks about there's so many little things we can do each and every day to keep that positivity.
Yep.
We think we can't do it, but we can. And he said, like simple things. It's a great book. I'd highly recommend it. But he said, there's 7 little simple things we can do.
I have a podcast called Love in the Little Things.
Yeah.
And it is positive thinking.
Yeah.
And I talk about it all the time. If you're stuck in this negative energy and all the things that are going wrong in your life and nothing's going right, how do you think you're going to start obtaining positive energy? No, you're going to continue sitting under that dark, rainy cloud.
Right.
Because you're not walking away from it.
Yep. Yeah, and he talks, simple thing. Okay, what's one of the best things? Exercise. You don't have to go to a gym. You don't have to run a marathon. Go for a walk in sunshine, right? If you have a dog, walk your dog, as you say. He said, take away he wrote the book right around COVID starting when people were locked down. Put happy posters on your wall, little things like that. Do little things there. Hold the door for someone. Buy the person in line behind you a cup of coffee. Just little things like that. And they all can add up. And he's got 7 of them there. And he said the interesting thing, too, is, for many years, people got into collecting things. And he said, we have shown that collecting things is only a temporary fix for you and there. Because as soon as you collect one thing, you have to go to the next thing, and you have to go to the next thing. And his recommendation is focus on experiences, and they don't have to be expensive. They don't have to be these exotic vacations. They don't have to do that. Go for a cup of coffee with a friend.
Yeah.
Go walk the beach with a friend.
So
little things.
That brings me back to, I know that the reason why some people, when I was growing up, the reason why they said some people would get addicted to drugs was because they went through very difficult times, and that was their way of coping. But there's also things like we talked to Dr. Wally Smith, who specializes in sickle cell disease at VCU, and he says, they get addicted because they're always on pain medicine because they're in unimaginable pain constantly. So nowadays, since we know so much about being addicted to drugs, and aside from the fact that the people that have sickle cell and any other condition that causes them chronic pain, why do they get addicted to drugs when they know it doesn't actually last that momentary happiness?
Yeah, I think like most humans go, it won't happen to me. I won't get addicted. I can handle it. And, you get caught up in before you know it. The Oxycontin crisis that started in the early 2000s. We're still feeling the effects of that. The good news is through education, many doctors severely limit the amount of pain medicines that they're prescribing. I didn't realize till I went to work for the Coleman Institute of Addiction Medicine that taking a prescription pain pill, even at the very reduced dosage that a doctor may prescribe, it's very easy to become addicted to it.
Yeah, I think because some people have addictive tendencies, and yeah.
Yeah. And it doesn't take long. So, and I always come back to, do little things. Do little things. Do positive things as we go back to that. Hold the door for somebody, right? Call up a friend, ask them how they're doing. Have a good little conversation. Go for a cup of coffee. I love meeting people for coffee. I'm constantly meeting people around town,
Yep.
places for coffee. Learn about other people. We can learn so much. The amazing thing about our country is we have so many different cultures that have come to this country. Learn a little bit more about, someone else and go, wow, that's really interesting. And, that
We
can make the
focus
difference.
so much on history. We might as well learn about everybody else's history. We are the melting pot.
Right.
There like you said, so many cultures here, and why not take the time to learn about somebody's culture? We're sitting here pointing fingers at each other and blaming at each other for why our life isn't going the way we want it to. It's that victim mentality that puts you in the position you're in to begin with.
Right. It's easy to get into the victim mentality, and it's hard to get out of the victim mentality. I consider myself very blessed, very fortunate. My father and grandfather were both very positive people. And I understand there'll be some experts that say, oh, it's not as simple as that. But they believed in being positive, and they also believed in, I'm going to get knocked down, but I'm going to get back up, and we'll do something. So I've created my little mantra. I spent many years doing leadership coaching, career coaching of young professionals, and I think it's really important. And I started with it being OMA, O-M-A, and then I added D. And I used to tell my clients, if you want to be successful and you want to do things, I'm not telling you what to do, where to go. I never tell my clients that. I ask questions. But OMA, now O-M-A-D, O is for be optimistic. I'm not saying it's easy, but be optimistic. M, be motivated. Have the motivation to do it. A is so important. Take action. Don't sit and think about it. Take that first step. And then D is the discipline to continue to do that. So that's my free advice to our community. If you can get to that OMAD position and you just start small.
Yep.
And that's the big thing, but start. I always tell my clients, start. Let's do something there.
People forget that we're human. We're going to make mistakes. We're going to have fallbacks. But a great example of this yesterday. Everything went wrong yesterday morning before I came to work, and I was like, is this how my Monday's going to be today? Because I'm not feeling this right now. So I got in the parking lot at work, and I came in to do my podcast for Loving the Little Things. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to talk about active listening today, which was what I originally going to talk about. I decided to talk about rejecting negative energy. And I really decided I'm not going to accept this negativity today. Yes, okay, my morning didn't start off the way I wanted it to, but from here on out, I'm going to start paying attention to all the things that do work out. I loved my coffee yesterday. Can't wait to make my coffee at work. So excited to go talk to my coworkers in the break area, make my coffee in the morning, catch up, then get to work. I love my work. There's nothing that I don't look forward to when I walk through these doors every morning.
Yeah,
so many things to look forward to. I completely forgot about yesterday morning.
Yeah.
Completely.
Simple things. Simple things. And I'm a big believer, and I have been for decades, about, positive energy versus negative energy. And years ago when I was at a much lower level of my career. I was a marketing manager and reporting to a VP of sales and marketing. And this guy wanted to do root cause analysis of every single thing we did. And he was constantly looking back. And if we missed even a tiny project, okay, team meeting, root cause analysis. And I had this whole marketing team reporting to me. And I went into him in a very polite, professional way because he was the vice president. And I said, negative energy. Negative energy. That's all you're bringing to the team.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking over their shoulders because you want to analyze and look back on everything. We have a lot of good things going on in this business, this team.
But you focus on what's not going right.
Yeah, yeah. And so he looked at me and goes, negative energy, huh? Negative
Never thought
energy.
about that.
And he didn't think about that. And I go, can we please give this a rest and focus on everything that we do correctly?
So how do we get all that negativity that comes from even trying a drug to begin with, like peer pressure, like having gone through some sort of trauma at a young age or even in adulthood, having lost somebody that we love? How do we get people to focus more on generating positivity in their life? Because I'm a true believer that when you're building up positivity in your life, you don't rely on other things to bring you immediate happiness or immediate satisfaction.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big challenge. How do we become happy with ourselves? Because so many of us are unhappy, and we do that. But I think there is a lot of support groups. I think, you have big brothers and big sisters. You have, youth sports. You have soccer. And I keep coming back to that. But find something that you like to do where positive people are around. Find something, whether they're adults, college students, when they're younger, that are going to support you when because things are going to go wrong.
Yep.
We know that, right?
That's life.
Yeah. So the question is, how do we react to them there? And, don't let other people define you. And I think that's a big challenge that many of us face, that we're so afraid of what others are going to think about us. We're so afraid about others. And I always just tell my clients, don't let the other people define you. You know your worth.
Yeah.
You know your worth. Believe.
Everybody, and I've said this time and time again, you can be the ripest peach on the peach tree, and there's somebody out there that hates peaches no matter what.
Yeah.
So why are you going to waste the minimal time you have on this earth trying to make everybody happy?
Yeah.
And that's coming from, I'm a people pleaser like me.
Right.
I finally decided, you know what? Either you like who I am or you don't. And if you don't, best of luck to you. I hope you find somebody or a group of people that you do vibe with, I'm not going to change who I am.
Yeah, you can't please everybody. It's so great. People that know me besides books know I'm a big music fan. And Ricky Nelson from the Nelsons, a big star of the 50s and early 60s, but he wanted to be a rock and roll singer. And he went to a revival concert in the early 70s at Madison Square Garden, and it didn't go well. He didn't look like 50s Ricky Nelson. He had long hair. He had a beard. He was doing country songs. And he got in this big, the crowd was booing him, and he walked off the stage. And he wrote this fabulous song, and it's called Went to a Garden Party. It's called Garden Party. And the chorus is, you can't please everyone, so you got to please yourself.
Yep.
And he talked about that, about how he went up there, and no matter what he did, the crowd just wasn't buying it. And guess what? I believe it was a number 1 hit. If not, it was a number 3 hit. It was one of his biggest selling songs ever about a disastrous time.
See, that's what people, I feel like they focus on. Oh, my grades aren't good in school. I have pressure from my parents to go to a good university. If you know college isn't for you, don't go to college.
Right.
Go to a trade school. Learn a trade. They have them for all sorts of things now.
Right.
Specialize in one thing that you do well, that you love doing.
Right.
There's always, people think there's one path in life. There is not one path. There are roads that are as many branches as there are in a tree.
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. We're very fortunate in this area. A lot of the Henrico County has a fabulous career and technical education program. Chesterfield County has a fabulous program. Richmond City has a career and technical. Mike Rowe of Mike Rowe Works, I would highly encourage young people to go to his website. And he talks about things very similar to that, where maybe college isn't right for you.
Mhm.
What are some of the great careers? What are some of the things that you can do there? And so, again, I always come back to don't let other people define you.
Yeah. I think that's the biggest problem is, we get stuck in this mindset of making sure that we're liked by everybody, wallowing in self-pity, victimizing ourselves, and honestly, making excuses for our own poor actions. Don't do it anymore. I know it's easier said than done, but I think if we start embracing these things, being more aware of them, especially to young people, we can start making an actual difference. We focus so much on the negative side of things. Our parents are going to judge us. Our family's going to judge us.
Right.
Get the help that you need.
Exactly.
Because they love you more. They would rather deal with a slight little bit of disappointment and see you alive and live a long, healthy life than have to put you 6 feet under.
Oh, so well said. As a parent myself, and we've been through it, and I've had friends that have had to bury their children, and I don't know how you ever come back from that.
You don't.
You don't. And so, and then we as humans, we let these things build up, and we let them build up, and we're trying to do all of this other stuff. And again, I keep coming back is, what is your path? What is your path? And when we're young, we don't know. So try things.
Yeah.
Explore, right? See what it is. You might be good at this, you might not be good at that. And I think the challenge that we face is the younger generation today with the information overload. They're bombarded with information, and they see so many, quote, successful people or big stars, whatever it is, whether they're an internet influencer, whether they're a singer, whether they're an actor, actress, whatever it is. But what they don't see is what they had to do to get there.
Yeah.
And how many different failures that they went through.
And they were endless.
Yeah.
I was watching, I forget her name, but it was the actress from Game of Thrones. And she said, the interviewer had asked her, what's some advice that you have for aspiring actors and actresses out there? And she said, you really need to love this job in order to do it. You have to 100% love this job, because you are going to get knocked down time and time again. It is going to nearly break your character. It's going to nearly break you as a person. You have to love it wholeheartedly, no matter what.
Yeah, that's a very powerful statement.
It is.
Yeah, and then you got to make the commitment and be disciplined and do it, and just accept the fact you're going to get knocked down. Get back up. You're going to get knocked down. And there's story after story of a successful actor, actress that got rejected for so many parts.
Oh, yeah.
And then out of there. One of the big things, being a music fan, in the early 60s, every major record label rejected the Beatles. Every single one. And there's actually a famous note that the president of one label said, guitar bands are dying. And that was in the rejection letter to the Beatles. And look what happened. And they changed the world.
I was watching something yesterday about how Jeff Bezos from Amazon was visiting some of the top retailers, department stores like Sears, Macy's, JCPenney's. And they were all like, no, people are never going to buy a pair of pants or a shirt online. They're going to come in and try it on. Where's Sears now?
Exactly.
How many people actually still go to JCPenney?
Yeah.
And that's the sort of thing where it goes back to just be yourself.
Yeah. and have that vision and have that commitment. Jeff Bezos is particularly interesting, because when he started, it was books and music, and
Yeah.
that's all Amazon had. And a lot of people find it hard to imagine. I think it was 10 or 12 years before Amazon turned a profit. And Jeff Bezos kept telling the board of directors, fortunately, they had enough of a financial backing, said, we are going into this. We are not going to make money for, pick a number, 8, 10, 12 years, whatever it is. And they didn't. But the board backed them. And now, can you even imagine life without Amazon?
No. If I need something in a couple of days, I'm going straight to Amazon.
Yeah, and so he had the convictions. He had the courage of his convictions. He had the belief. He had, the visions to do it. You talk about Thomas Edison and all of the things that he did. And, and so many of his things that didn't work. And, he doesn't, I think one of his quotes is something like, I didn't fail 1,000 times. He said, I just found 1,000 different ways to get
Not
where
to
I'm
do
going.
that one thing.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I think people make up excuses for themselves, and that's why they get so caught up in everyday negativity. And stop making excuses for yourself. Number one, number one thing that's gonna hurt you. Number two, you're human, right? If you're thinking that you're too old to do something, or you didn't get enough education for something, Google and YouTube exist for a reason.
Yeah.
And Coursera, I forget how you pronounce it, but they have free options
A lot of
to
them.
get certifications and things. There's always a will if there's a way.
As touching on something you were saying, so what you have to be able to do is forgive yourself, give yourself a break, forgive your family, your friends. Hanging on to, anger and frustration just weighs you down there. And so one of the things that I would tell my clients all the time is, one of my favorite all-time philosophers, world famous, Popeye. I am what I am, and that's all I am. Now, that doesn't mean you don't continue to improve it, but accept you for you and build on it step by step.
Yeah.
And my clients would look at me and I go, oh, there's a great philosopher. And they're sitting there and I go, Popeye, I am what I am. But we instantly know what, and think about what that means. And there are so many little things that we can look through and say, let me use that, as the first step.
Yeah.
And I believe in positivity. People go, trust me, I am not naive. I am a realist, but I realistically choose to be positive.
Yeah.
And
That's a good way of putting it. It's not that you're living in some fairy tale land with rainbows and unicorns and butterflies and flowers blooming constantly. No, we actually have to make ourselves see the good things in our daily life. I like to do what's called gratitude journaling. Mm-hmm. I think that's a good first start for people.
Yeah.
If the hardest part is getting yourself out of bed every morning, then the first thing you should look at on your nightstand is your journal. Rip it open, start writing down the things that you're thankful for.
Yeah. Yeah. And as a, leadership coach there, and as someone who's been around for a while and taken a lot of roles, I always used to tell my clients, don't let other people define for you what you need to do to make you happy, right? You need to do that, right? And so the question is, what is it that's going to get you? Gratitude journaling for a lot of people is a wonderful thing to do. For me, I start my day by going to the gym. That exercise, getting the endorphins out in my body. Yeah, there are times that I wake up in the morning that I would just as soon roll over. But I don't. I never roll over. Just because I'll say, okay, my father and grandfather instilled that discipline in me. But at the same token, I know that if I roll over and don't do that, the rest of the day I'm going to be a little out of sync. things aren't going to work. So get to the gym. And then once you get there and I do that exercise, then I can take on the day. That's what I choose. Some people take their dog for a walk early in the morning.
Yeah.
Right? Some people do yoga. Some people meditate. I would tell my clients that all the time. What is it that brings you the inner peace? What is it that brings you the confidence to go out there and face the world? Don't let other people prescribe. Try some different things. You'll find what works, and then do it.
My final advice that I'm going to put my 2 cents in is, if you're addicted to drugs or alcohol, start with maybe eliminating the people in your life that are around you when you decide to do that every day. The second thing I'm going to say is forgive yourself. And the third, start making those little changes. You're going to make mistakes. You might fall back 2 steps, 10 steps back for every 1 step forward. But if you keep making that step forward, you're going to get there.
Yeah, and it's great advice, and I just would add to it, ask for help, reach out. There are lots of resources out there, whether it's a family member, whether it's a friend, whether you just anonymously go. There are enough helpful resources out there where we, it's not a stigma. We in our head make it a big stigma. People understand addiction is a disease, and it's very easy. So go get the help, take that first step. Many people will backslide a little bit. That's okay. And then they get back there and they do it. But ask for help, reach out. There's a lot of resources in Richmond. Look at the ColemanInstitute.com website, right? We have a ton of resources to help educate you. Look at the McShin Foundation. Yeah. Look at the Healing Place. Go online. Talk to somebody. There's Rams in Recovery, a very successful program down at VCU here in Richmond. If you're in there, reach out to Rams in Recovery. So take that step. There are a lot of people that will help.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you all for listening in. Just watch out. Next episode is going to be some facts and more information about the Coleman Institute. Thank you, Mr. Joe.
Thank you.
And make sure you listen in again. This was our BBB Sharing Spark Talks. Ignite, sparked by BBB Podcast Studio. I'm Evie, and thank you for listening. Bye.